politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
We tortured some folks. We did some things that were contrary to our values.
Were you surprised to hear the president actually say torture?
I was. I think his use of the word torture could have political, diplomatic, and possibly even legal implications. We reported this morning in the Daily Beast that the Senate report that President Obama was speaking about explicitly decided not to use the word torture just for this very reason. They didn't want to wade into a legal debate that could have far-reaching consequences for the people implicated in the report for using these harsh interrogation techniques.
And I put nothing past the President of the United States when it comes to that. We'll get to that remark and more in just a second with our guest, Mike Baker. But first, as I welcome you back, I want to ask you, do you think President Obama should be impeached? That's a question we're asking here at Newsmax Television. And if you want to weigh in, I'd love for you to weigh in. Go to newsmax.com/Obama poll. That's newsmax.com/Obama poll. And vote right there and register your opinion on whether or not Barack Obama should be impeached, and we will bring you the results when they become available. And now we welcome in former CIA covert agent and host of America Declassified on the Travel Channel, Mike Baker. Hello, sir.
Hello. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great to talk to you, Mike. By the way, I understand what their season number 2 is taping right now for your TV show.
That's true. We're right in the middle of filming for the second season. It's going to come back with in the late fall with a new title. They're going to call it World Access, trying to broaden the scope, get a little bit away from some of the conspiracy theories. But it's going to be a great show, going to a lot of very interesting places around the country.
Great. Look forward to it. So we'll look for World Access on the Travel Channel in the fall with Mike Baker. I'm sure we'll speak to you before then. All right, let's talk about what we heard at the top here, the president talking about how we tortured folks. And you heard the analysis there on CNN. Do you think there was a purpose to that language?
You mean, could there have been a political angle to something that came out of the White House? I don't know. I don't want to speculate. Yeah, of course there was. He's throwing red meat to his base and pandering. I don't know however you want to phrase it. For him to come up with that old chestnut. I mean, he's at least consistent with his narrative. He's been targeting that around since 2008. But yeah, I listened to that, and what can you do? You can either go and bang your head against the wall, or you can shake your head and wander off and try to continue to fight the good fight.
But do you think that down the road, his administration or those in it might try to prosecute some of the people that made those decisions that kept our country safe and accuse them of torture or some other illegal act? Do you think that that's a possibility? Well,
there's certainly members of his administration that would love to do that, but I don't believe that they would. I don't believe that he would allow that to happen. I don't believe he would actually even the president. I don't believe he would go that far down the road. That's an incredibly destructive effort if he wants to engage in that. Look, it wasn't as if the CIA engaged in this with the enhanced interrogation. It was a government program. It was blessed by those in the previous administration, the Department of Justice, and others. And if anybody took the time, if they were objective about it, and I realize it's tough to be that way because it's a highly emotive subject, and the left did a great job of framing the debate. They took the high ground and said you're either talking to a detainee or it's torture. And the other side, we did not do a good job of messaging and pushing back and saying that's just not the case. But I think if anybody took the time and they were objective about looking at the DOJ memos that were released and actually studying the past, then they would realize what a deliberative and painstaking process it was just to do anything within the enhanced interrogation program. There were insane number of cables going back and forth saying, can I do this? Can I do that? Within the enhanced interrogation. And yes, there's torture, but that's not what we were engaged in. And, I realize that there's going to be people that you'll never shift off their position. But you know, there's the real world, and then there's the ideological world that the administration lives in.
Yeah. And what do you make of this CIA versus the Senate? We had the head of the CIA the other day apologizing, saying, yes, we looked at computers of the Senate committee that was investigating the CIA. Where do you fall on all that?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important to understand the actual, situation. The Senate Intel Committee, the staff that was working on the history of the interrogation program.
All that.
Well, I think, first of all, it's important to understand the actual, situation. The Senate Intel Committee, the staff that was working on the history of the interrogation program that's taken them over 5 years to produce, there was a shared computer system set up for the agency, for the CIA, and the Senate Intel Committee staffers. That's a shared system. That is the system that the agency personnel did a keyword search, which is a very common forensic effort. They did a keyword search on that shared system. They weren't snooping around or going into Senate Intel Committee computers over there in Capitol Hill. And the point of the exercise was that it was clear during the course of the 5 years that the staffers were working on this report that they had improperly accessed an internal agency document, classified document. So it's a counterintelligence issue. Now you have to ask yourself, what else is walking out the door? What other classified material is going out the door? So they did a keyword phrase search on this shared computer system. At the same time, I understand why, of course you need checks and balances. Of course you need to ensure you don't have an overreaching intel community. But I think if you look at the facts and say that this surfaced in March, John Brennan, who a lot of people don't really like, and members of the Intel Committee would prefer to have seen someone else, put in that position anyway, he instructed for a full investigation. The investigation took 4 months. The IG did a very thorough report, and it was very critical of the agency. And now they formed a task force. They're engaged in looking at potential disciplinary action and measures to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again. And that's how you do management. What you don't do is allow something like Benghazi or the IRS or something else just to drip and drab forever and never have any insight. So while everybody's bemoaning and getting histrionic about this issue with the Senate Intel Committee, I would also point out that at least on a positive side, the agency took action against what typically happens in Washington.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, I want one more issue with you, Mike, if you will, and that's ISIS. The focus has been off ISIS since the Israeli-Gaza conflict and war, and certainly the ground incursion. Is there?
Not really. No, in terms of our leverage, our ability to affect change there in Iraq, and I mean, you raise a fascinating point. I'm always amazed here in the U.S. at our inability to multitask, to stay focused on more than just one item. We're like a bunch of raccoons chasing the next shiny object. So it was Ukraine. Oh my God, how could Ukraine happen? What? Look at ISIS, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, Palestine. We can't focus. But you're absolutely right. All this crap continues to happen, even if our focus is shifted elsewhere. And the situation in Iraq is a goat road. It's getting worse. We have no faith that the current government in Iraq is going to be able to do anything of any substance in holding it together. The Kurds are, frankly, a couple steps away from drawing the curtains and declaring independence. And, they're not getting the pushback they used to get from Turkey, which was, a big issue. The Iranians already have a lot of boots on the ground. I mean, look at the absurdity of this. The Iranians have boots on the ground trying to shore up the government that we've spent all these years putting in place. Assad over in Syria has utilized airstrikes in the same effort to keep that same government in place. And you can't write this stuff. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, and we're sitting down at the negotiating table with Iran and complimenting them on all the progress they've made and how much they've followed the rules. And at the same time, when we look at it as it's in a vacuum, first of all, I don't believe it's true, but even if it were true, that you can't look at Iran in a vacuum when they're doing everything else and more, as you've alluded to.
No, absolutely. No, Iran is always, I mean, ever since the fall of the Shah, they have been a major influence peddler in the world of terrorism and in the regional politics out there. This is a dream for them if they end up in the southern oil fields of Iraq. But you're right, they continue to influence just about everything that happens. Nothing happens in a bubble out there. And so we act as if Iran, the only issue that we've got is this nuclear weapons problem.
Yep. Nope, that's not the truth. All right, Mike, great to talk to you, sir. We'll speak to you again real soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mike Baker, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. And when we come back, it's Gimme 5 time. That's right. You know what, you love it, you got to have it, and it's here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax Television. So don't you touch that dial, and don't go away.